What's up, hockey fans? How are you today? Good afternoon, and welcome to the Odd Man Rush. I am your host, David Dwork, coming to you live on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. And of course, the Odd Man Rush is brought to you by Intense Nutrition up in Coral Springs. So thank you to them for joining or for sponsoring the show. Thank you to you for joining the show. And yeah, we got a great one for you today. Obviously, took a day off yesterday. There was kind of some bigger, crazier stuff going on in South Florida. And yeah, we won't even get into that shocking turn of events with the football team. But yeah, so today my guest is going to be Erin Brown. She's going to be joining me in just a second. She covers the Panthers for the Hockey News, has been covering the Panthers for a long, long time, has been a good friend of mine for a while now. And we've got some fun stuff for you today. But first, before we get into that, I just want to really quick just kind of get you updated on where we're at right now at the Panthers. They are going to be starting a homestand tonight. They're going to be home all week. Tonight they've got the Vancouver Canucks, the turned around, right? The resurgent Vancouver Canucks, led by their new head coach, Bruce Boudreau. They've been playing great hockey under him, especially when compared to the way that they started their season, which was kind of a train wreck. So it should be a fun matchup tonight. Another great matchup of a Florida team that's playing really well and a team from Western Canada that's playing pretty well, because we had the Calgary Flames in town the last homestand last week. Unfortunately, Sam Bennett wasn't there for that. He will be there for the rematch against Calgary, hopefully going down in about a week or so up in Canada, assuming those games don't get postponed. Fingers crossed. But for tonight's game, the big news, I guess you could say, would be the return of Sam Reinhart. He had been on the COVID list along with a few of his teammates. Reinhart is back. He was practicing yesterday. He was there for the morning skate today. He is good to go. And he was going to take that top spot with Sasha Barkov and Carter Verhaeghe on the top line, which is where he started the season. He's been playing, obviously, much better over the last month or so. And it's no surprise to see him getting a shot up there on the top line. So that's kind of the big news heading into tonight's game. There's still no Patrick Hornquist, no Mason Marchment. They've both been in the COVID protocols along with goaltender Spencer Knight. Now, Mason Marchment was on the ice this morning for the morning skate. So it was the first time he'd been on the ice since going into the COVID list. He is not going to play tonight, but he's hopefully going to play on the back-to-back Friday and Saturday at FLA Live Arena. That's kind of the hope that Andrew Brunette said this morning. So they're going to give him a little time to get back in there. And I mean, look, with Marchment, you love to see him in the lineup. You hope to see him more. The poor guy was out with an injury for almost the entire first half of the season. He gets back in, he plays really well, and then he goes right on the COVID list. So, kind of a unlucky string for Mason Marchment. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have been paying attention to my coverage, I'm a big fan of what he does and his work and the kind of player that he is. So I'm very anxious to get him back into the Panthers lineup and working with that amazing forward group that they have. And yeah, so looking at the lines for tonight, the way that they shook out between yesterday's practice and this morning at the state, as I mentioned, Sam Reinhart, it looks like he's going to be back on that top line with Barkov and Verhaeghe, which, I mean, Barkov and Verhaeghe are both playing great, as you guys have been paying attention to the team the last couple of weeks. I mean, Verhaeghe, he had a spectacular road trip. So you would just think adding Reinhart to that mix with as well as he'd been playing recently, piling up the points, it should be fun to watch. And then that second line, I mean, Sam Bennett returning from his 3-game suspension. He's going back to center that second line with Jonathan Huberto on one flank and Anthony Duclair on the other. We're going to talk about both of those guys in just a minute with Erin Brown. But yeah, again, another, basically 2 top lines make up the Panthers' top 6. And then Anton Lundell, he's the rookie's going to slide back down to the third line center spot. Frank Vatrano and Maxime Mammon will be his wings, it looks like. Frankie has been, I mean, look, with Frank Vatrano, you're going to get speed, you're going to get intensity. It's just the consistency in the production that becomes the issue. But, obviously he had a little fire lit under his ass after he was a healthy scratch a couple weeks ago. And with the COVID issues, he's been able to stay in the lineup. So, I'd like to see something out of Frankie. And then Maxime Mammon, he certainly earned his spot, skating a few games on that top line and doing a pretty good job there, showing some of his skills that he picked up while playing in the KHL with Siska, winning a championship over there. He actually scored, you guys may have known this, he actually scored the Gagarin Cup clinching overtime goal with Siska when they beat Avangard a couple years ago for the KHL title. So he's come a long way in the maturation process, and it's nice to see kind of the fruits of his labors coming and showing through for the Panthers. And then the fourth line, it looks like it's that same Lombard-Luosterainen combination, but with Hornqvist on the COVID list. Alexi Heponiemi, he played the last game, did a decent job. He showed up a little bit. He's going to get another look tonight, and hopefully just the continuing of the process of building up his confidence and showing something. Because look, he's a small guy. He looks still like he's 15 years old, but his game has grown a lot by leaps and bounds if you compare it to what we were seeing maybe a year and a half ago. So so something fun to keep an eye out for. And then on the defensive side, you get your same. You got Ekblad and Weeder. You got Gudis and Forsling. And then it looks like, based on the skate this morning, that Ola Ulevi is going to stay out there paired up with Brandon Montour on that third pairing, as Lucas Carlson was working out after the morning skate with the guys who are normally the healthy scratches. So it's not set in stone yet. Obviously, it's never an exact science, but the top 5D are pretty locked in. It's just going to be who plays that number 6 spot, whether it's Ola Ulevi or Lucas Carlson. Okay, now you're updated. You're good to go ahead of tonight's game against Vancouver. Going to bring Erin on the show in just a second. But first, I just want to talk to you for a second about the show's sponsor, Intense Nutrition. They are located in Coral Springs on 2540 North University Drive. As I always mentioned, in terms of location, they're just a few minutes away from the Panthers practice facility at the Ice Den. And look, this is a place they're going to give you great value. You're going to get the big box store prices, but you're going to get the personal touch of a local business. That's the thing about Intense Nutrition. You're always going to get superior quality in terms of product and superior service in terms of staff. They're going to help you with all your vitamin and supplement needs. They will work one-on-one with you. Don't be afraid to grab someone, pull them aside, and ask them for some advice. They'll get you hooked up with their specific stats. Again, cold and flu season going crazy right now. You might want a little extra protection from that. Maybe you're an athlete working hard and you want an edge, or maybe, you're just getting a little older and you want to feel a little bit better. I can certainly relate to that. And something else that Intense Nutrition offers is also what they call the Intense Cleanse and Detox. It's a pretty amazing program. If you want to lose 10 to 15 pounds quick in 10 days, head up to Intense Nutrition and ask them for the Intense Cleanse and Detox. And then, as always, they're going to hook you up with your pre-post-out, post-workout regimens, whatever you might need in that department, they've got you covered. So again, that's Intense Nutrition, located at 2540 North University Drive in Coral Springs, right on the corner of University and Royal Palm. Or you can give them a call at 954-775-0257. That is Intense Nutrition. All right, now we're going to get to my guest. She is an awesome hockey journalist. She really knows her stuff. She's played the game. She covers the Panthers for the Hockey News and has covered them for several other outlets over the years as well. Her name is Erin Brown, and I'm going to bring her on the show now. Erin, hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
How are you doing? I love the backdrop here. This is pretty sweet.
Right? This is definitely it's like my little sports den, right? Like all the memories that we've been collecting over the years. I've got them all kind of strategically placed around my room, and it's just a lot of happy, fun memories, right? Like that's why we do the memorabilia thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't done it in quite a long time, but I know we'll get to it. Just opening up a box and going, why do I have all this? And then, after you get past the why do I have this, it just, everything comes kind of flooding back, which is I guess that's kind of why you do it, right?
Right. That's the point. So yeah, like you said, you kind of mentioned it. We're going to kind of a little bit of a show and tell, if you want to call it that. Erin, if you follow her on Twitter, which I hope you do, if you don't, it's at Rinkside. She has been, I guess, going through her Panthers garage of stuff over the last couple of weeks, because the photos that she's been posting of just some of this amazingly cool memorabilia from like the 90s Panthers teams and a little bit into the early the 2000s as well, the dark ages, as some of us like to refer to it, but just some really cool stuff. So we're going to get to that. I got a few things that I pulled off the shelves just real quick that I thought would be cool to bring in as well. But before we get to all that, let's talk about the current team, because maybe not so much in past year, right? Like that's the thing. Like we can finally talk about the current team and be like, yes, this is it. Finally. So first thing, let's talk about this road trip, this short little road trip that they just came back from. Two teams that are playing really well. The Dallas Stars came flying out of their COVID issues, and the Carolina Hurricanes, who have quietly become, arguably the best team in the NHL, arguably being, the Panthers also in that conversation. But yeah, so that the 6-5 shootout loss in Dallas, aside from the shootout, which I'm so over at this point.
Same.
Extend 3-on-3 10 minutes. You cut out 80% of overtime or shootouts. I think that's a great place to start.
I don't even care if you bring back the tie. Just give me the 10 minutes at least of the 3-on-3. I can't see many games going beyond 10 minutes of 3-on-3.
Right?
I can't. Because you're either going to run through your bench and your top players, you're going to have to manage those guys. You can't have Huberto and Barkov out there for 5 minutes. You just can't do it. So I'm over the shootout.
You add a rule. You do 10-minute 3-on-3, and then you do a shootout, but you can only use players in the shootout that you didn't use in the 10-minute 3-on-3.
I don't even know how you'd keep track of that. How would you, quick, whatever.
But you don't want to see like Radko Gudas doing the shootout? Would that not make it a whole lot? All right. I feel like we're getting a little far field here.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm going to take the blame for that one. But yeah, so the Dallas game. Really exciting, 6-5, I think the final was. I mean, obviously any game with that much scoring is going to be fun and exciting. I thought that should have been 2 points for the Panthers, to be honest. I thought like at least 2 or 3 of the goals that Dallas scored probably shouldn't have gone in. I mean, that one, and look, I want to support Sergei Bobrovsky. I'm a goalie myself. I love supporting fellow members of the union, and he started the season spectacularly, but I think he's teared off a little bit of late, and I thought the Dallas game was one of his worst of the season. Aside from a couple of the goals that he stopped 75% of, and they trickled past him, which are super annoying for any goaltender. But he also had that giveaway where he was stick handling it in the corner. It was just a mess.
The one that got past him, and then I think Gudas was tied up and got knocked in.
Yeah, it was
in the Dallas. That's not his fault.
His rebound control was really taking a sharp turn down, Crap Street, and I don't know what happened, because I mean, really, some of the pucks that are hitting you, like I can speak, from knowledge of doing it myself, and I'm far from anything close to what these guys are playing at, but I do know in terms of the puck hitting you in certain areas of your chest and in your torso, those are the easy ones to hang on to, as opposed to ones that you're like flailing with your arms out and trying to hang on to. And it just seems like everything is just bouncing off of him. He's not hanging on any rebounds at all. And that's really making it tough for his defensemen, which is kind of going back to some of the issues that we had the last couple of years. My point in all of this, Erin, is basically that the Panthers played very much well enough to win that game and maybe got robbed of a point. So just, overall, I guess, better on the road, right, is where I'm going with this.
Yeah, and even that game, it's funny because we mentioned the dark ages. And remember the years where, the post-game comment would always be, well, at least we got a point. And that just got really old quickly because it wasn't getting them anywhere. But this was actually one of those times where I think they can say that. At least we got a point. Considering how bad they've been on the road this year, something's got to change there, because they're going to have a ton of games coming up. Even this coming road trip after this brief homestand.
Right.
That should be of concern, because I think they're up by about 13 points. They're going to have 5 games on the road. Whatever lead they have, if they continue this bad trend of we can't play well on the road and we don't win on the road, like suddenly that lead that you built up for the early part of the season is going to diminish very quickly. And when I say 13 points out of that last wild card spot. Usually we're looking at this from the reverse, but so yeah, I think that's you don't want to pin it necessarily on anyone. Bob's had his off days, but other people have had their off days. And I think it's just one of those things about sports, unless you are, those mid to late 90 Detroit Red Wings teams that just slaughtered everybody, just picked up so many points, records, unless you're one of those teams.
Roster.
Exactly. You have the Hall of Fame lineup, and maybe there will be a point where these guys get to that, but they're not there yet, and that's okay.
Barkov, Ekblad, Huberto. I mean, certainly on that track.
Yes. Yeah. I completely agree. But yeah, with the road trip, I think getting that point in Dallas, I think that's a start. They got a point. I mean, positive.
You shoot yourself in the foot, you can say, well, at least I still have all my toes. And I think that's kind of the good, way to bring up that Dallas game. I will say I'm not as concerned overall about the road play as I think there seems to be this kind of aura of concern they struggled a little bit early in the season with, they had that really bad loss in New Jersey. They had like a shootout loss in Boston. But looking at like their recent road games, you got this, the one that we're talking about now, the at Dallas and at Carolina, where both games went extra and they got 3 or 4 points. But even the road trip before that, and it's going back a ways to early December, but I mean, you're at St. Louis where you lose in overtime. You get a regulation win in Arizona, which I mean is kind of customary. And then they lost a really tight, low scoring 3-2 game in Colorado. And anybody paying attention to the league right now knows what Colorado is doing.
Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily they're a bad road team at all. I think they've had some bad luck on the road, or, in terms of the Dallas game, bad goaltending. It's nothing that I'm concerned about. And I certainly am not at the point where I'm about to start saying, oh, well, they have to get home ice advantage in every playoff series, or, I think they're going to be okay.
It's too far away from that. I think it's more of the way I look at the road situation. Even that first, the first road trip, my first thought was, isn't this their first road trip where now they can go out and about in the city, have some fun, spend some time together? And
right.
Because last year they couldn't do that. They were kind of all
even
isolated
at home. They couldn't do that. Yeah. They were in the fake bubble last year, the, whatever you want to call it, the faux bubble. So it was rink home. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
Plane,
so
hotel,
getting
rink.
out on the road for the first time, I thought, okay, maybe they had some fun, and you know what? Good for them. You got to keep your head and your wits about you. You can't just,
you got to keep everything in perspective, no doubt.
Yeah. But I think it's more, and I'm not concerned yet. We're not even halfway through the season. There's a lot of hockey to be played. The thing that I think it's just on the radar is that, no, they haven't been good on the road to this point. And they're going to have a ton of road games coming up. So it's one of those things where I think the last 2 is a positive turn. I think that it is a good thing for them. If they, from here on out, if they can aim for like 500 on the road, I think they're in really good shape, because we know that they can play very well at home. So
yeah, I think 500 on the road is actually like kind of maybe a lower expectation too. I think they can be better than that. Just as the team that they have, the team that they've constructed. There's no reason that you want to go and have tough games in road build. You have tough one in Edmonton, maybe. Well, maybe Edmonton's kind of a mess right now, but I mean, Vancouver, Calgary, they're coming up. A lot of the Eastern Conference teams, you have to go back up to Tampa at least 5 more times by the end of the season, if my math is correct based on past seasons. But I mean, all kidding aside, it's gonna work itself out one way or another. We're either gonna find out that they're gonna be okay on the road, or we're gonna find out that shit our pants a little bit when the playoffs get here. But either way, as you said, there's a lot of road games between now and the end of the season, so there's time. We're gonna figure that out.
Yeah, I think they have turned the corner, at least with this last one. I think is a lot of reason to be positive.
Yes, I would agree with you on that one. Something else to be positive about that I wanted to get into is it seems like Jonathan Huberto, speaking of turning a corner, his game is taken another step up this season, as it has really the last few years. You can say the same thing with him and Barkov and Ekblad. All these foundational pieces are going into their prime years. But with Jonathan Huberto, I think especially this year, because guys like Barkov extended timeout, Duclair extended timeout, he really kind of had to be the guy. And it's not like his production has pretty much been a very steady level of production, which has been great. I think why it's so impressive is that he's been able to do it regardless of who's in and out of the lineup, how much ice time he's getting, the fact that he's now getting more ice time because he's playing on the penalty kill. And something that I really like that he talked about earlier heading into this season, how much work he spent in the gym over the summer to bulk himself up so he could play a more physical game, so his body could take it more. Because Erin, this is one thing that I know it is damn hard for these guys to do what they do at 100 miles per hour, shift in, shift out, game in, game out. It is hard to be that consistent. And I think that's the reason that he's an MVP candidate this year. It's not just how good he is, but how good he is always.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was looking up before we came on here, and I think there's only 2 games. Like his worst skid of the year is 2 games without a point. 2. Right. He has not hit after. If he has a game without a point, he's right back scoring. So it's the slide is he's only at 2, and I think that was during the New York road trip. So I think he's been underrated for a very, very long time, and it's just all coming together. And I think part of that is the cast around him. I mean, he's got amazing talent. And if you remember a few years ago, there was always the talk about like, put him with Barkov, put him with Trocheck. And it was almost like, okay, those guys were going to lift him up. You almost have to kind of look back at those years and say, maybe was it the reverse? Did we miss something here? Because he has just found a new level that, and I'm excited to see. I think there's still more level. I still think there's more level with Barkov. I think there's still another level with Ekblad. These guys
they're
are
still in their mid-20s.
Yeah,
they're just entering those years.
Yeah, and it's kind of disappointing too, because a couple of those years were wasted, just flat out wasted. And I don't think you can only.
I wonder how like Edmonton fans feel with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl about that kind of comment.
We know what it's like in Florida. We've seen it here, I mean, the 94, 96 points, and they don't make the playoffs. Like they were 12 points out of the playoffs that year, I think. So yeah, I think that now that they have the talent around them, and especially Huberto, I think you're starting to just see what he really can do. And the talent around him does matter. I mean, if you have guys who can finish, and they have plenty of guys who can finish, it makes a huge difference, because he's the playmaker. He is the playmaker.
But it also helps that there's like other lines that are as productive as his lines. Then he's not going up against the best defense that every team they play against has to offer. They're getting some breaks in that regard as well. Something, Erin, that Bill Zito said in an interview, I think it was last week. I was reading his quotes. It was with somebody from The Athletic. They were talking about Jonathan Huberto and about his production. And Zito was saying how one of the best games that he graded out was the game against the Rangers on the front of that homestand, where he actually didn't get a point. And I think he finished like -1. And just saying like one of the best games that he played was one where maybe he didn't have a point. It just kind of goes to show how impactful he's become away from the puck. And when not, he may not necessarily be contributing on the score sheet, he's still, influencing the game in a very positive way for the Panthers and the systems they're running. And again, to your point, just the maturity and growing into understanding his role within this team, with these teammates. It's been so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and even with the idea of him trying to be more of a defensive guy, and you mentioned also, going to the gym, bulking up. If you look at Huberto from his first couple of years, one of the things I always noticed was that he was a smaller guy, and he always tried to mix it up. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, please do not do this, because you're going to get yourself hurt. And he's also at that point, he wants to be the offensive, stud. And that's the kind of player he is. But yeah, what you say about him touching upon these other aspects, it's a maturity factor, I think. And it benefits him well. I think, not to make any comparison, but that was something with Owen Tippett's development, that before he ever got here, they focused on him trying to be more defensive, good away from the puck, good on the penalty kill, those sort of things. So I think it is important. And I think that once you have a taste of that, it just elevates everything. You're, instead of going in, just say half-assed to a penalty kill where you're like, okay, I'd rather be scoring. If you're taking the pride in that pride's going to rub off on the other aspects of your game. As you find success in what you are, what your God-given talent is, that's going to rub off even more. So I think, for him to round out his game that's probably the catalyst here. I mean, because he wasn't playing penalty kill 2-3 seasons ago. He had the 94 points. Awesome. Great. But, you wouldn't have looked to him saying, oh, he's a defensive guy. And now I think it's done him well.
Yeah. It's brought his game full circle. And I mean, it certainly hasn't taken anything away from the offensive capabilities. One other player I want to talk about before we jump into our show and tell fun, which Manny, I hope we may end up going a couple minutes over. So Manny, I hope you don't mind. But real quick, I want to talk about Anthony Duclair, just because the more I've been watching him play, thank you. Manny said it's all good. Thank you, Manny. Okay, so Duclair, let's kind of rewind for a second. He arrives last season. He'd been a good goal scorer, bounced around to like 5 teams in 5 years, whatever it was. So obviously that's kind of raises some eyebrows. Since he's come in South Florida, I think he's become amazingly comfortable with his role on the team. Because watching him grow has not just been as a hockey player. He's like grown as a man. Like, you go back to, he represented himself when he signed with Florida initially and then negotiated his extension. His game obviously is a big part of that, but what he's done off the ice, becoming a very prevalent Black hockey player in the NHL and speaking up, doing the work that he's done with the Hockey Diversity Alliance and really shouldering that to help, whether it's young hockey players or just young persons of color, and finding their roles and kind of helping them to, I guess, be more comfortable and deal with. I mean, we've seen some of just on social media, some of the things that people put towards Duclair. So just kind of the whole full circle of him growing as a player, as a man, and just watching it come into what he's grown into now, because his hockey playing is the best hockey he's ever played in his career. He's still scoring. His assists are up. His defensive numbers are up. It's been really great. And I guess I just wanted to kind of go off for a second about how nice and how happy I am and how much I've enjoyed watching him grow into this man that he's become, both on and off the ice, and for the contract that he signed. I mean, it's like a bargain for the Panthers.
Yeah. I mean, well, yes, a bargain for the Panthers, but probably good for him because he's not paying an agent and he's also not paying state income tax. So it probably, he's got 2 pluses right there, but yeah, I think he's been just a wonderful addition all around. One thing I remember about last year, it seemed like he would always get these phenomenal chances and just couldn't bury them. And now this year he has. And I can't help but wonder, you bring up the fact that he represented himself. And this is not making any accusations. It's not saying that I know something that, was going on and I'm just kind of, no, I know nothing of that, the insider stuff, but you can't help but wonder if, in a situation like his, was he maybe not getting the attention he should have because of the race factor? I hate to say that, but did he just finally then say, you know what? Yeah, I will represent myself. I'll take care of myself. And he's done a fantastic job to show like, look, yeah, he's a fantastic role model in that regard. So, you kind of wonder about that. Did he bounce around team to team because there were issues in other places? Who knows? There's a lot, I think, that is never,
he knows,
that never surfaces, right? Like publicly.
No, that's kind of the problem across the board, isn't it? So many things that we're just starting, and I'm not saying this with Anthony Duclair. I'm saying overall with a lot of minority athletes, hockey players particularly, but you're starting to hear little pieces, little stories kind of finding their way to the surface. And that's kind of why I really love what they're doing with the HDA, is because I'm hoping that it will either, first of all, stopping those things from happening in general, but if not, having players at least feel comfortable enough that they don't have to keep it within themselves and hide it and worry about, further actions or what repercussions may come from speaking out in their own defense. It's just something that I feel very passionate about. I hate that it's been going on as long as it has. And it's hard for me because who am I? I'm just like a typical white hockey player, not from Florida typical, but I mean, I haven't had any of that against me. But I certainly have compassion for those that it has. And, whatever my part can be, it's like, I'm sure most of us, I hope, feel that way, is whatever we can do to help the situation. And for me, all I feel I can do is just right now, just the heap props on Anthony Duclair and the effort that he and his colleagues are doing, because it is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, from the female side of things, I've experienced things, nothing that's horrendously bad, but yeah, it exists. That's the reality. I think one thing that I have to say, it's kind of I don't know if it's touchy, but like the whole NHL's hockey is for everybody. I love it because it gives everybody the platform, whether you're, a different race, indigenous, female, straight, gay, whatever. It's a platform that I think people have latched onto and said, okay, yeah, I feel I can speak up, but I feel it's only gone so far. I don't know that it's fully working. The fact that you need to have a hockey diversity alliance, that we're pushing this further. If hockey's
and
for
the
everyone,
NHL wouldn't get involved with that. Like the HCA put out that awesome video with the stick tape, and they couldn't use any NHL brand, jerseys. No, to the NHL, they didn't. They said, "Do you want to be a part of it?" And the NHL never got back to them, or they never answered in the affirmative, whatever it was. Like right there, that kind of makes you wonder, like, well, what's going on? Why isn't the NHL doing everything they can to be a part of this mission, to be a part of this message? If there's a downside, explain it to me, because I don't see it.
I completely agree because there are many, I think, just situations that the NHL could be jumping on and having really, really positive impact. And if you remember, when the league started shutting down last year, the NHL was the last to do it. And that was a lot. It was almost like, were they, I don't know, did they just not know what to do? And I can kind of understand, like, if you're trying to do something for the first time, you want to make sure you get it right. And there was almost like this deer in the headlights, like, should we be doing what the NBA is doing? Should we be doing what MLB is doing? And they just were paralyzed. And that was not a good thing. So yeah, it is still surprising to me that they haven't pushed a little further. I still think, I'm a big advocate on mental health. I think that's something that could be huge in the league. I don't understand why they don't have, a pro, mental health initiative the way they do Hockey Fights Cancer. You have players who are speaking out. I'm sure there are business reasons behind why they're not doing some of these things. I don't think that's a great excuse, but
I think,
yeah,
Robin Leonard is like the player who I think first comes to mind in terms of like going up against the NHL and saying we need to do more, and really bringing some of the deficiencies in that department to light. And that's what you want, right? You want guys speaking up. You want light being shed on these issues, because that's usually the only thing that's going to institute change.
Yeah. And you know what? Unfortunately, I hate to be, dark in that sense, but there are members of the NHL community who dealt with mental health issues that are no longer around. And why it wasn't addressed back then, and it continues to, we keep saying this, right? Like, break the stigma. Right. Well, is it going to break? And I think this applies again. This is one thing. I know we've gotten away from hockey diversity, but it applies to that as well. It's everyone's got a unique situation, and there are opportunities here that I think are completely being missed, and they're missing a lot of positivity that I think could be coming out from these examples.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. This seems like something that you and I could kind of go back and forth on for a bit longer, but we are limited by the time here. And right now I'm making Manny work overtime. And I think what I was really excited to get into today, we got to get into it. So,
okay, we'll make it quick, right?
Well, yeah, not too quick. I want to milk it a little bit, but I've got a few things that I pulled aside from my past, but mine are, a little smaller. So I want to let you go first, and let's see what you got.
I went through small things first. So I guess here they go. We'll start with these. So I didn't go to either of these games, but we've got first year ticket. Did not go to this game. I don't know how I have the ticket, to be very honest. I'm sure someone
and in great shape too. I mean, these look like they're in really good condition. The corners, from what I can see.
That's the thing that I think has been the surprise out of all of this, is how good of condition this is. And then this was, I would call this like the lost season game. So this is the 94, the lockout season.
Yeah.
Opening night.
Well, does that have the original opening night or the rescheduled?
Yes, it does. It is October, but there was no October game. So yeah, right. Those were, I have some other ones too, but I figure we'll save those. I have so much stuff. I feel like I'll be posting for ages at this point.
Well, maybe this will be a thing. We'll have you on the show, like, every month or so, and then we'll spend some time on hockey and some time on nostalgia.
Show and tell.
So, but on that, I'll go with my first thing here. I also brought a ticket stub, and this is maybe my favorite ticket stub of all time. It's the ticket stub from opening night 2001. and it's actually animated of Pavel Bure scoring his 50th goal the year before. How cool is that?
I don't have that one. I was up in New York that year.
Yeah, so like, you guys remember when Bure came, it was huge. He was the biggest thing that happened to this team aside from going to the final. But I mean, he's their first like bona fide superstar.
Yeah,
he scored 50 goals his first full season. They make the playoffs. There's all this excitement, and then opening night they give us this animated ticket of him scoring a goal, and I'm pretty sure that's Johan Hedberg and Pittsburgh. Pretty sure, but I've got a bucket of ticket stubs. I've got like every ticket stub of game I've went to forever. But this one is just, I love it. I think it's so cool.
I think that's awesome. I never saw that. That's pretty amazing. That's okay. Sweet. Yeah, I have, I think one thing, I think I posted the program from that game, and I was like, I don't even know how I got this, because I was like, I wasn't in Florida that year. All right. Let's see. So number 2, here,
we'll do 3 each. How about that today? We'll do 3 each.
Okay, then I'll cram this. Okay, so just some so this here melted ice from the Stanley Cup Miami Arena. I again don't know how I have it. Some of these
I've never seen that. That is cool.
Oh, you've never seen that?
That is cool. I've never seen that.
The container, I don't even know what we want to call it here, plastic, whatever. They actually sold these too in Stanley Cup shapes, but I didn't get the Stanley Cup shape. I don't even know. Again, I don't even know.
Because if it's a piece of the ice, that looking like ice, like that, I don't know. I think that's badass. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is the ice. This is just the,
Yeah, no, the whole display. I think that's sick.
And then the other thing was just the Stanley Cup rat, an official.
Okay, what is it? Authentic Year of the Rat Stanley Cup Finals. Oh,
so a rat that was, and just so it's not, I'm not making it up. Yeah, little Panthers logo. Yeah, so they were. I think they were selling those at Hockey Fest the year after they went. So
right. Well, mine isn't nearly that cool, but it's from the. I think you just showed the ticket. It's the opening night program.
Oh, nice.
From the year from after they went to the final. So. Opening night, year 4 against the Rangers. We got the banner that was raised that night. You got the Clarence Campbell Trophy there, but I'm not a big program guy.
The Wales.
Oh yeah, right. The Prince of Wales Trophy. Thank you. I'm sorry. Trying to be smart here, but failing miserably. But I mean, one of the things that I always loved about this that I feel like doesn't get noticed a lot is it's Beezer's helmet that he's jumping out of. Which like if you look over my shoulder. Right there, I got my little miniature Beezer helmet that's signed. That's like my favorite thing, maybe ever. But I don't know, just such great memories from then. And like I said, I don't have a lot of programs, but that's one that I have held on to over the years.
Yeah, I'm still going through the stack. I'll be posting more. But the last thing,
this is going to be a regular thing for sure.
Okay. Well, the last thing, this is not Panthers related, but I don't know if you can see over here, and this isn't even the complete collection. Actually, you probably can't see. There are, here, hold on. Over here, this whole stack here, all media guides. So I've always kind of been a nerd with media guide stuff. So the last thing that I want to show is this is a media guide from 79-80. Do you know the significance of this?
That's expansion year, right?
Yeah.
That was when the league added. What am I looking at?
I'm trying to hold it to where.
Yeah, no. Am I trying?
Yeah, so
am I supposed to pick?
Okay, so I know Manny's like
I'm getting the league expanded to 20 teams, right?
They expanded to. This was when they absorbed the WHA.
Okay, so Edmonton,
Quebec, Hartford, and I'm forgetting the last one. I'm sorry. But the reason it's significant.
Manny feels old.
It's the last one.
We all feel old, Manny.
Before basically Gretzky rewrote the record book.
Oh.
So this is falling apart. But this is why I just thought it was cool.
That's really cool.
But that's literally awesome. Falling apart. And here you can see. Can I get that there? Wayne Gretzky. He hasn't done it. He just had his 2 seasons in the WHA at this point.
Wow.
So this is literally, I always thought that was the coolest thing because I was like, okay, so basically when you look up the records in this book, it's not anywhere. You don't see Gretzky's name anywhere. So it's the last time that if you were looking for, okay, who was, before he rewrote this record, who held this record. So, it's certainly not worth anything because it's falling apart.
I don't, but that's maybe not like, I don't know. Financial value and personal value are very different. And looking around, our backgrounds, I think anybody could get that vibe. But I mean, that is really cool. I got it before I show my last item. Like, how did you obtain this relic?
Honestly, it might have been like a collectible show that it was falling apart when I got it. Cool. But I was just like, oh, that's just kind of cool. I mean, I think I'll have to save this for the next one. But I think I have a Quebec Nordiques media guide from like the 80s, and it might have been like 80, 81, 82. And I think it's got Randy Moeller in there. So
nice. You have to show that to him one day.
Pull out. Yeah.
I'm sure he'd appreciate that.
Probably not, but
yeah. Awesome. All right.
So what's your last
thing? This is like some personal, this was the first Panthers autograph I ever got when I was a kid. The first year that I was really, really into the team was the year they went to the finals, which most of us can say. But I
don't mean to interrupt you. Do you want to break this news that just came out?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Erin.
Oh, okay. Well,
go right ahead.
Just reading off the notes here. Andrew Burnett has been named head coach of the Atlantic Division 2022 All-Star for the 2022 All-Star game.
That is awesome. Congrats to Bruno.
Wow.
That's great.
I think that's fantastic. I mean,
didn't Turk, when he was here, the year that Yager and them, didn't he coach that one year?
I think so. I know Doug McLean coached one year.
Doug McLean did. Yes, he did.
Doug McLean coached. I don't remember.
That's probably it in terms of.
Yeah. But that's a really cool thing for him.
That is awesome.
You know what? I think it's well earned. Given what happened to the team and, to be put in that situation, it's what a testament. He's managed to keep things together and
strive, not just keep them together, but thriving. I mean,
look,
this is one of the best teams in the league.
Absolutely.
And they are, they've dealt with injuries and COVID and have not really skipped a beat. And I mean, I think some of that credit obviously goes to Bill Zito as well for what he's put together roster wise, but that is great. And I think you said it best. It's a testament to what he's been able to do this year. And it's nice to see him getting that recognition on a much more grandiose scale than just in South Florida.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. And we'll obviously be getting into that. And when we get done here, I'm going to have to type some words on my computer screen and put them up on local10.com about that. But okay, so my last item here, like I said, it was the first Panthers autograph I ever got. And it was of my first favorite player for no reason other than his last name was very similar to my last name. I later found out that they're both derived from the same last name from like hundreds of years ago. So we may be like distant cousins. But okay. Is this puck signed by Radek Dvorak? And then I later got the card. But it was the first thing that I ever got a player to sign for me. And I've had it in the same case for like 30 something years now. And again, nothing special. I mean, Panthers fans are like, some Panthers fans have a lot of love for Radek. I've been lucky enough to get to know him in recent years as an alumnus. We skated together a couple of times. We've, been, he's a cool guy. And I don't know, every time I look at that, it just takes me back to being 12, 13 years old and just like, with my dad going out like by hotels with hockey cards and trying to get autographs. And that was just something that I absolutely loved doing when I was younger. And not just for hockey, like I'd go down at Marlins games and try to get, players' autographs in the bullpens. And I staked out a hotel in Orlando as a little older than I was back then to get Dwayne Wade's autograph when he was a rookie. I mean, look, we're professionals and obviously we love what we do, but there's roots to everything. And I think
Oh,
the
absolutely.
memorabilia and the nostalgic roots and the collecting. And I think that was a huge part of my life when I was a young person. And I mean, I think you as well. So
I was thinking about that. We grew up in a time where sports in Miami was just it was boom. It was a boom town, because you figure, if you were an 80s kid, you got to see the Marino era and you got to see the Canes, which that wasn't a thing in my household, but then, you get 3 expansion teams. You get the Heat in 88, you get the Marlins and the Panthers in 93. How could you not watch sports and get into it? And if you're a kid,
when they weren't even like expansion teams, like, I mean, the Heat, it took them a few years, but you get to like the mid 90s where the Panthers were also turning a corner, and it was like, whoa, here's this Panthers team. They're, possible playoff team. They did what they did in 96. You got the Heat with Pat Riley and Zoe and Timmy. And I mean, the Canes were, late 90s and the early 2000s, the Canes were good again too. The Marlins won the World Series in 97. Though. Well, nothing is ever going to be like that. But I mean, no, those Butch Davis Canes teams and like the Larry Coker team, like those were there's some Hall of Fame quality talent on those teams.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
Nothing against the Canes when they're at the top of the mountain, they are frigging ridiculous. And hopefully going back there now with Mario Cristobal as their head coach, fingers crossed. I was trying to come up with a negative Gator reference, but I love you too much, and I know there's some Gators fans watching, so we'll just.
But you know what? I'm not stupid. I know if the Canes do well, then it's good for the university, and that's good for me. So I'm not. Yeah, I know how Sebastian sports works. I know how college sports works.
Doesn't Sebastian the Ibis sign your paychecks also? So that wouldn't be the worst thing either.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like I know a lot of people would not like
right.
I'm on both sides there, right? But I know what sports can do for a school. I absolutely know what that if they get back to the top, that will be a big thing for the university on the academic side. I know that. So I'm not becoming a Canes fan. Don't worry, it's not happening.
Sorry, we can all stand hand in hand and root against Florida State. We can all agree on that.
Yes, that's fine.
And I think that's a great way to wrap it up. We went a bit over today, so thank you, Manny.
Thanks, Manny,
for hanging with us. Thank you again to everybody watching, to the Odd Man Rush, again brought to you by Intense Nutrition, always streaming live here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Obviously, thank you to Erin, an awesome guest, great conversation. I am going to hold you to. We're going to do this more often. I'm going to make you a regular guest on this show because we have too much to talk about to just squeeze it into like 1 or 2 shows. Like, this is ridiculous. So we're definitely gonna have to do this more often. And again, thank you also to Manny, because he is the best, and he's been the best since he was my intern in radio a million years ago. And now he's just kicking all kinds of ass on his own. And thank you to everybody watching, commenting, tweeting. I love the interactions. Thank you to everybody. Until next time, for my guest, Erin Brown, and from my producer, Manny Chang, I am David's Work. Thank you for watching the Odd Man Rush on 5 Reasons YouTube, brought to you by Intense Nutrition. We'll see you back here next week. Go Cats!